some experts call a cyber pandemic. Well, a new report believes we are. It found that over half of 8 to 12-year-olds are exposed to cyber risks, such as cyberbullying, fake news, and online sexual abuse. The number of those at risk rises in countries undergoing rapid digital transformation. 71% in Egypt, the same percentage in Indonesia and in the Philippines. The figure is 73%. And by 2020, it's estimated that over 725 million children aged from 8 to 12 will be online, and more than 90% of these will be from those countries experiencing that rapid rate of digital penetration. And those countries are where cyber risks are greatest.
This was a recent BBC News that summarized our report. And I've been working in this online safety and digital education for children for about 10 years. And it was our first time actually it is the first time in the world to scan this online safety for young children's age group to 8 to 12. And I myself was pretty shocked and surprised about the fact that these young children, not even teenagers, having such a high prevalence of cyber risk. It is not just about the one country, it was consistent across the 29 countries that we observed. So what's happening here in the digital world? So as we all know, our children are first generation who are born and raised in this hyper-connected internet. And then they walk to digital world alone without the support, mostly without support of parents or teachers. And digital world is unfortunately currently unfiltered and uncensored information, content, and people. And our children spend a long time. We are talking about still 8 to 12. They spend 32 hours per week for entertainment only. So if you're adding the time for their schoolwork, computer times, it's adding up much more. And 80% of these children, young children, are currently using social media around the world. As you know, the legal age is at 13 years old, but our young children are there. And 50% of our children online are involved in cyberbullying. 20% of them are involved in online sexual behavior. It is not just viewing the inappropriate content, it is seeking the content, downloading the content, sending the content, and talking with a stranger about this content. And 10% of them are having offline meetings with strangers that can be leading to online grooming and radicalization. And 10% of them can be considered as a video game addiction. So if you're counting social media addiction and mobile addiction, other addiction, the number can go up higher. And more actually worrisome part is that we called it risky pairs, mobile phones and social media. Currently, like 50% of children are connecting internet through their own mobile phone. So when they have their own mobile phone, they have unlimited access to the internet, and then they are very highly likely to get involved with social media activities. So when they are highly functioning in social media activity, they spend 12 more hours per week. And the risk level goes up to 70%. So almost every kid who are high functioning in these risky pairs are involved with the cyber risk. So what's going on? So our children 8 to 12 are particularly bad generation? Certainly not. So there are the elements of how technology impact on our children. Technologies are great, but they're not value neutral. They impact on our behavior and our mentality and our social relationship. So our children are surrounded by all this lewd content and fake news, bullying, and online radicalization, privacy invasion, which is unfortunately the byproduct of our digital technology. And current algorithm of social media actually put them more likely to be addicted to the technology. Our children are constantly distracted, constantly stimulated, and receive instant gratification that doesn't really help for our children's development. And our social media algorithm, as we all know, put them into the echo chamber, and the recent Twitter study shows that our fake news actually spread much faster and deeper and wider than true news. And the way we collect it actually lead us to the more fake news and false information. So it has a negative impact. So you start with the behavior changing. A lot of parents complain to me, oh, my kids don't sleep anymore. They don't look at me anymore. They don't read anymore, right? They don't go out anymore. There's a very interesting another study showing that our children spend a lesser time even compared with the prisoners. Yep. And that affects the mental changes. More social media, ironically, more lonely, more depression. When they're self-seeking, they're more depressed. Cyberbullying, not to mention, leading to more depression and unfortunately higher likelihood to attempt a suicide 2 to 9 times. A few months ago, we also lost one 14-year-old girl in Australia due to cyberbullying. Content aggressiveness is now known fact. So it has an outcome. So lower grades, less healthy, more relationship problem for the younger kids, especially the mom and dad and family problem. So I like to challenge if there's a technologist in this room. Currently, our digital ecosystem has not been supporting our children's right, UNCRC. The technology has been developed with the attitude that we build it first, we grow first with the exponential growth, and let's do the patchwork later. Let's the forgiveness later. We have to actually work together to change, not American first, not technology first. We need to put our children first. More worrisome part is that when we look at the nations, you often think that the less developed in ICT will have a lesser problem, right? Because they don't have a connectivity. We need to get the phone to our children. That is the first intuitive thinking. But what we found is that when we're looking at we call it ICT emerging countries, the countries that experiencing rapid transformation, like Egypt, Indonesia, and Philippines, Oman, that we observe. And we have the strikingly linear correlation, association between mobile penetration and risk. So what's happening is that when we are giving out the mobile phone without the preparation and social infrastructures, awareness and education, we are giving them a poison. We are not giving them an education. And this makes our risk as a pandemic. It's growing really fast, as you can see. We are in 2017. We are estimating about 260 million children age group 8 to 12 are currently at risk. And it goes up another 150 million children within 3 years. Why? Because all nations are pushing digital transformation very rapid way, and all the youth are coming from these regions and countries. So we believe that this is a global issue, this is a generation issue, and this is a really fast-growing issue. Technology is meaningful when it enhances our humanness. And currently, unfortunately, as we have seen, our children has been enslaved by technology rather than they become the master of technology. So how can we do that? How can we reverse the tide? There's no way that we're going to put our children out of the technology. So rather, we have to change the tide, and we need to have our education as a tool to make our children to be the master of the technology. So that's why we say it's time for the DQ. When we look at the Industrial Revolution, when the new Industrial Revolution with the new technology, there's a new focus of human worth, and there was new way of education and emergence of new intelligence has come out. So when first and second Industrial Revolution, the machines actually replaced our labor skills. And that was a time that the current education system was born. The society need a factory worker, not actually the physical labor. So IQ was born around that time together with our current education system. And the third industrial revolution, when we have an internet, and then people now don't go to the factory. People have to move to the city. They have to work in the office. And the complexity of human behaviors are really, and dynamic has been complex. So that's when the EQ was born, emotional intelligence was. And now we are entering into fourth industrial revolution. We are talking about today in virtual reality, in AI, and all this the new technology converged together. We are defining our society dynamic in a new way. And we believe that it is time for us to focus on not just about the knowledge, it's really about the community-based wisdom. And we actually developed the concept of digital intelligence as a new intelligence that we need to empower our children. So we published in a World Economic Forum 2 years ago, and how we can actually thinking about the comprehensive framework and comprehensive competency that we need to empower children in the fourth industrial revolution. So a lot of times we talk about the digital literacy, codings, but is it everything? We have to actually look at from digital rights, identity, use, safety, emotional intelligence, communication in the level of the 3 levels, starting with the citizenship. We need to empower children what it means to be human, what it means to be our citizen in the digital space. Then move up to creativity and entrepreneurship. So what I'd like to focus on today is about the citizenship, because it is must-have ability among our children, but often get neglected because we are always putting about the job skills and coding skills and all the practical skills in first place. But what really important is that we need to help children to mitigate the risk and maximize the potential. Let's start with the citizenship. So we look at what are the risks they can encounter and how we can mitigate the risk with their skills. Starting with the screen time and all other 8 skills that I'd like to introduce. But the core of DQ is a discernment. It is so important nowadays with the knowledge has been overwhelming. We are information overload, and our children need to have the critical thinkings. We all talk about the fake news, but it is not just about the fact checking. It is really about the discernment, based on the values. So it is not just about right or correct information, wrong information. Is it really the information promoting the respect? Is it promoting the community value or not the dividing? So this is the digital citizenship framework that we developed. So they have to start with, they know how to control the digital media in a right way, right? So they need to know the screen time management. And then they need to understand the basic nature of online communication, which is digital footprint. We just had a very interesting discussion about what you put today can embarrass you, and even impact your job in 20 years. So understanding about digital footprint and privacy management. A lot of times kids don't even understand this day they have a privacy, and they don't know this is their basic human right. Currently, it's okay to share, it's good to share, but they will have to understand what it actually entails. And then they need to understand about the critical thinking. They need to have a cognitive knowledge, not just about information, content, and context. What are the right things to do with the critical thinking? Then they need to have a proactive protection from the cyber risk. They need to know about cyberbullying management. As you have seen, cyberbullying is the biggest threat among children. We are filled with the hatreds online, and how we can actually protect ourselves and protect our community from the bullying. And cybersecurity management is a basic start of our protection of devices. And healthy relationship. Empathy is so important. We all talk about the empathy. But what about the digital empathy? Digital empathy is different from online empathy and offline empathy because we don't see face to face, right? So what it means to be empathy online. And that should lead to strong identity as a good, ethical digital citizen. So within the framework, we started out the global movement. We framework is great, but so what? How can we teach children about this issue? What we observe, I worked in Singapore together with the government through the university. What are the bottlenecks that teach children about this DQ? I found it 3 problems. One is that there has not been holistic framework and holistic curriculum. A lot of times we say, oh, it's strong they set the strong password. Don't cyberbullying. But that's it. That doesn't really change a children's perception, attitude, and behavior. And second problem I found is that teachers, we have not been trained in this way. So teachers are very difficult to actually find time and resources to teach about this topic. And third is about there has not been no metrics. So when we don't have number, it's very difficult for us to understand what's the real problem. So what we have developed is let's make whole things into one online platform. So we actually developed, based on the framework, we actually developed the holistic curriculum. And then, because teachers having no time and having a difficulty, we made into online learning and flipped learning curriculum. So children can learn by themselves from the online program, and then teachers become as facilitators. So class become a discussion. And then we put a research-based assessment in our online platform. So when children complete the whole A skills, we can get the measurement on their DQ score, their personal strengths, and their usage of technology and exposure to cyber risk, and their guidance and support level. So this is the online platform that we create. And based on this platform, we started out DQ Every Child as an initiative. So we target 8 to 12. A lot of people ask me, why 8 to 12? Because 8 to 12 is a very strategic age. Because they're the age group, they form their identity and discernment. And this is the age group, they start using their mobile phone. And they start using social media in a very active way. So our strategy is simple. It's like a vaccine. Before you get germ, you get vaccine inoculated. Before you drive, you know how to drive. So that we can give the minimal understanding of DQ so that they can minimize and maximize opportunities. And what we strive to do, and what we've been doing in Singapore and in the global initiative, is that when we give out the DQ world, it's not just about the educations, because education is a starting point, but we are talking about the risk. So when we detect the children at risk, we actually connect with the e-counseling through our system. We are doing it in Singapore with the Singapore government. We started out in Australia now. So we can empower each stakeholders. So when children complete, they learn, they get the assessment, then we give out the report to the parents and teachers. So parents will be alarmed, and teachers will understand about their stage of digital citizenship. And then we can do the national report to support the policymakers. And also we can do this holistic, the public health approach. And we are building this system together with the World Economic Forum, OECD, and all other counterparts. So we have we always have a research base. So when we see that, when children complete the DQ education, we see that 10% of increment of their DQ score, which is corresponding to 15% decrease in the cyber risk. We have published a report in World Economic Forum, so we can find a reference over there. But what we try to achieve is that it is so important that every child has to be benefited. I'm also a mother of 2 children. My kids are 8 and 10, and it is so critical. A lot of times, our children are a very unique generation. They're in the sandwich in a way, right? There's a blind spot, obviously, and then we are losing this generation. We are not empowering generation in a way. So what we try to do is to bring this quality education to every kids, every schools, and every nations. So currently, what we actually started in 2017, we started out as a Singapore research-based project. And 2017, I was in Davos in Switzerland, Davos meeting. And it became a global movement through the Davos with the World Economic Forum. And last year, we are very happy to actually go to work with countries in 30 countries. And we have some partners here in this room. I'm very thankful. I want to say thank you of our partnership. But what we are trying to do is not, we are not in a company, we are not selling our product. We are actually having the one mind and one vision to strive for the empowering our children. So we are working with the partners, any partners, schools, and any partners work together, and we want to move as fast as technology. As you see, the technology really move fast, and then risk really move fast. What we need to do, we need to move fast. So our actually aim is that by 2020, within 3 years, we need to go to 100 countries, and we are going to set a standard, global standard for the digital citizenship, because we don't want any child to be left behind. And we are working with all these wonderful partners to come up with the DQ index and then make sure that all countries will have the right policy and education for our children. And our vision is ethical digital future. As we have seen, digital technology has been pushing with actually the main driver was the technology. But are we protecting our children? Are we giving every children their rights as a children? You can see are kept. And are we giving our children a right and equal opportunity to thrive in this digital age? So what we want to strive is to build the ethical digital ecosystem so that we can help and empower our children together. So please join DQ Every Child. And I always say, a lot of people come to me, what should I do? Let's start with our own family. And let's start with our own schools. And let's start with our own country. And be part of coalition, and so let's work together. So dqinstitute.org is our website, and you can find our 2018 impact result, as well as the report. And please feel free to contact me. I'm Park at DQ Institute. I want to close with our 2017 impact video.
Yo lo primero que hice fue bloquearlo y poner mi perfil privado.
인터넷에서 하는 말 다 믿지 않아요.
Empathy, like how to must care about others.
To use computer safely.
have 5 minutes for Q&A. So if you have any comments or discussion, yeah.
Thank you for this wonderful initiative. You know, it looks like the ills of technology are unsurmountable, while you pass on quite a bit of responsibility with the education legislation and institutions in terms of managing the ills of the technology. Why can't this be passed on to people who are developing technology and making money out of it? Why can't that piece of legislation start from them rather than passing it to schools and really burdening them with this kind of mandate?
I certainly agree with you on that regard. It is actually, we need to have this discussion actually beyond just education. We are getting there. Yes, please help us to bring more technologists and national leaders and business leaders to be part of the discussion. But what we actually saw is that education is really, really important, because our children, the first line is the parents and teachers. And what we observe is that there's a lack of empowerment for the parents and teachers with the right tools. So we have to do it in all multiple different levels. But you're certainly right. Yeah, we need to engage the national leader and business leaders to this discussion. Yep.
In this initiative, usually how long does it take from the first step until the kid becomes or understand being as a digital citizenship?
Sure. We actually make it into 8 to 10 hours program. So it can be adapted into your schools. It can be 8 weeks program. Some schools actually can finish it within a week. So it's we have all the resources free online up there. If you come to our website, I'll be happy to discuss how it can be adapted in your school. Sure. Any questions? Yep.
I have 2 or 3 questions, but I would be as fast as possible. Well, I wanted to ask if you have adopted something to not children but teenagers, because you know that I am 16, for example, and there are a lot of teenagers that that don't know those things that you want to show to younger children. So I want to ask you if you have some solution for teenagers, for example.
Let's work together to create a one for the teenagers. So yep. So we currently focus on 8 to 12 in a very strategic way, and the reason that I have explained. But of course, it's a lifelong journey. And teenagers, we have a lot of partners who have the great resources. I will happy to introduce. But for the teenagers, what we believe is that it's different angles. We need to actually teach children about all this topic. But teenagers, you guys are the change makers. So it's important for us to work together to develop something that works for your peers. I think as a strategy will be different for
Is the website in English, just in English?
We have Spanish, Korean, and English currently. For the main education, we have a survey with the different, the 15 questions, 15 languages. So yeah, let's talk, how we can adapt it in your countries.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so what I find, for me, working with children, it's quite easy because they are so good with teaching, learning. They are curious, and if you tell them that there's something like privacy, they will just go for it. And I think the hardest part is work with parents and teachers, because they are more skeptical and they blame children, they blame technology, they blame a lot of people around them. But after that, they give bad examples. So how do you find and how the program support parents? Or because what I understand that they appear in the second stage after the assessment, they have a result, or maybe you just plan to start working with them, educate them as well, because maybe not only teenagers but also adults need help.
Yep, definitely. We developed the parental materials for the utilizing DQ World as a resource. So we designed it together with the Singapore government, and we launched it. I will happy to share with the resource. But you're right, teachers are much easier, because teachers have a vacation and we want to do it. So when there's a training, it's easier for the schools to adapt. But parents are tricky. And it takes a lot of time and effort, awareness, and also the consistent, actually, it is changing the culture in-house. So it takes more than the schools. You're absolutely right. We're happy to share the resource. Yep. So time is up. Thank you very much. Yep.